Well, good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Doing all right? Yeah, all right. A few. Okay. You here with me? I'm so excited to be back with you all. I am Brennan. If we haven't met, hopefully we can sometime. But just a basic knowledge of me is I like baseball. I like good books, and I'm pretty much a nerd. So that is what you need to know about me. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm so glad to be a part of this morning. It's been a great morning so far and continuing in the summer series. But I do have to say, so last week I talked about kind of some theater church experiences that was like, hey, watch out, like someone may steal your trailer or something like that that may have happened to us at one point when we were doing theater church. But I want to give a great story this time that isn't a warning of something that could happen. But so we would go, we would do the unload thing, and it was 5:30 every Sunday morning. We'd get into the theater and we'd start doing that. And over the time, there was an assistant manager that would always open up. And like we would like bring her breakfast. We would do all of these things because we were like, thank you so much for getting us into the theater and just being so kind and helpful. And we just began to have this relationship with her, and everyone would always just, try to high five, like help her out with her job of getting the movie theater set up in the morning, like different stuff like that. And as time went on, she started to kind of make her way into the entrance of the theater. Like, I'm not going to fully commit and actually come all the way in, but she would do that. And then eventually she brought her mom, and her mom was baptized our theater church. And it was just this exciting moment of you don't have any idea who could be watching, like who's out there. Or we would have people show up for movies as we were tearing down, and they'd be like, what's going on? And we would just talk to them, give them a connection card and say, you should get a free gift, just trying to see how we could connect. It is a great time and a fun experience of being in a theater, and you never know who's out there. So keep your eyes open for a chance and an opportunity to show someone God's love while you're here in this beautiful building. So I just want to give that encouragement. We're going to continue in the summer series as we've been going through Psalms. And the past few Psalms that I've done have been a little bit more like, written in the wilderness or in the desert or in turmoil, and things were going on. This one's polar opposite. Like this one is like high energy, way up here, like going crazy. When I look at it, we'll be in Psalm 96 if you want to go there, but we'll go there in just a minute. And we'll look at it, but it is like high energy. It's like a playlist of like worship. I think the young people, I'm not young anymore, I think they say bangers, right? Like this is, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like Psalm 96 is that. It's like what you would put on and you would cruise to and say, like, I have an amazing playlist. Now, you probably have a playlist that you love on your Spotify, Pandora, whatever it is that you created and is like your favorite thing ever, right? And it's like, oh man, I need this. Maybe it was your heartbreak playlist, and you're like, oh man, I just got to go through the sorrow and listen to these songs. Or maybe it's your like pump you up to get ready for something playlist up here. Like we all have a good playlist. Well, one time I would just say that playlists can go wrong. You know what I mean? Like you could have all the good intentions in the world that it's going to be a great playlist, but it doesn't work out. And my buddy, he would announce at baseball games, high school baseball games, and they happened to be at a new visiting stadium. And they had like this technology that we didn't have at the high school we were at, and they had a pre-programmed list of buttons for like playlist. And some of it would maybe a walk-up song, or some of it may be just like, this sound effect that was happening. And they were like, hey, it's programmed for you, just like kind of go in order, right? Just here's what's going to happen. Like this batter comes up, hit this, that's going to be a playlist. They were just having some fun. Well, he trusted this to be programmed well, all right? And you know what? Most of the game it was. He'd go in, high energy, guy walks up, he's going to go, all of this kind of stuff. And you trust and trust more into whoever programmed this. Well, he kind of forgot exactly where he was. So it was later, and it was kind of the second go around. And luckily, I mean, it was the home team, and a kid was walking up, and I don't know what you know about baseball, but it was in the latter part of the lineup, which means you're probably not the greatest hitter, right? Like that's not your thing. Well, he's walking up, hits the button, thinks it's going to be awesome, and what it is a sound effect of Homer Simpson going, "Doe, what a loser."
Oh my God.
Now, no adult should ever hit that button for a kid that's walking up to. Now, he didn't mean to. Everyone's looking, is like, what in the world just happened? And playlists can go wrong. They can get messed up. But for the most part, when we create it, we know it. We do it for whatever intention we have from it. And not, Psalm 96 is a playlist of just high praise. Like it is up here. It is like mountaintop music of just saying how awesome God is. We're going to look at a few of those verses. They'll be up here. 1 and 2 is just sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, praise his name, proclaim his salvation day after day. We'll go to the next one. For great is the Lord and most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. And the next one. Let the heavens rejoice. Let the earth be glad. Let the sea resound and all that is in it. Let the fields be jubilant and everything in them. Let all the trees of the forest sing for joy. And just verse after verse after verse of 96 is this high praise. It's a line and a song and a prayer of just how great God is. And this is one from David. He was writing this. Again, we've looked at some of others of David that he's written in sorrow. Why so downcast? My God, where are you? He's written those kinds of words and seen God bring him through the desert. But this is one where he just celebrates. There's actually some words that are also written in Second Chronicles, and we know that part of it is he's singing praise because the Ark of the Covenant is coming into Jerusalem, and he's so happy. He's excited, and he creates this playlist of the great things of God. And these are important moments, not only for David, but for us. That we recognize that there is something special in experiencing worship. Because that's what Psalm 96 is. It's worship. This is what they would sing at the temple. This is what they would prepare their hearts with in praise for God. And there is something special that happens when we worship, when we praise. And we know that David can do it because, honestly, worship is this reminder. It's a reminder to him that God has led him through much. I mean, you think about the things that he went through in defending his own flock as a kid and coming in and defeating Goliath and helping just the people of Israel come and focus on God, but then his own failures in sin and shame, but being brought back out of that and recognizing that God is worthy to be praised. See, that's something about our own experience in worship that's important. See, we're going to look at that today, just a couple of things that are important about worship. Not just for David, but for ourselves. And the first thing that we're going to look at is, why do we worship? Well, we respond to who God is. See, worship solely is a focus on who God is. That's why we use the words just like David. We praise you. We bring joy. We have seen what you have done. The song we did just going into this moment of recognizing the God of Jacob, the God of Mary, the God that has been before us. We sing these words because we respond to who God is and what he's done and what we've seen him do. Because today, I don't know where you're at in your life. Maybe you're on a journey that's difficult and it's not going well right now. Well, we can still sing and say, God, you are worth the praise and you will bring us through. Or maybe you are and you've seen yourself come out of a difficult situation, a difficult time, and you can say, I knew you would do it, and look at where you've brought me to now. See, we sing because we respond to who God is. Paul writes about it this way to the church in Ephesus. He just says a few things. He says, in him and through faith in him, we may approach God with freedom and confidence. And in 14 says, for this reason, I kneel before the Father. See, Paul had gone through all sorts of things, and he had seen all of these movements of churches starting and the difficulty and the pressures and even being killed for their faith. But he says that faith in God, seeing what he has done and what he will do, brings freedom and confidence. And that is the reason I kneel, I pray, and I worship. And we can experience that as well. Because maybe he's brought you through that addiction that you thought there is no way I will ever recover. Or he's brought you through a relationship that has pained you and as Adam even brought up, the thorn in your side, but he has brought you through. Or maybe it is that you have a diagnosis, you've gone through your own medical experience and you weren't sure how this would work out, but God has worked it out. Or maybe he is in the midst of working it out right now. And we can have confidence and we can have freedom in knowing it's not on us. It's in the God that we praise. So why do we worship? Why do we come together? And because we get to respond to who God is. But there's even more. I don't know about you. Do you all like going out to like concerts and live music? Anyone, you can clap or yell or do whatever, raise a hand. Okay, so a few of you like, the live music. I love it. I love when it's warm enough that there's like music even at restaurants and stuff like that. And it's like, man, this is fun. And I had an awesome concert experience. It's one that I will always remember. It was back a few years ago. U2, if you like them, that's great. If you don't, that's great. Irrelevant, I guess. But it was awesome. They did a 30-year reunion tour of Joshua Tree. And they were at the Rose Bowl. And there were 90,000 people at the Rose Bowl for this concert. And there's just something crazy, like 90,000 people singing a song is like, oh my goodness, like it just put chills. And it was great, just song after song after song, things that happen. But you want to know what the greatest part of that entire concert was, with those 90,000 plus, with these songs that I've always heard, is my brother flew out to California and went with me. Now, I'm going to admit, it's his favorite band. I don't care about U2. I don't. They could have come and gone, and I would have been like, bah, okay. But they were coming, and I was like, I want to have this experience with my brother. He flew out, we went, and he loved it, so I loved it. And it was just this awesome moment because I did this together with someone. And someone that I love, that we got to experience this moment together. And you want to know what? I've had a few of those moments in the church before. In a collective time of singing worship to God. And there's different moments maybe you've experienced. You've come in and you weren't sure what it would look like to sing this morning. Maybe you didn't even think you would be able to. But you sang with the people that you love around you. I can remember one of those moments in church is we all went through an interesting 2020, and I'm not going to go into that. But when church met back in person, I didn't realize how much I needed to hear worship. Like together with people, singing of the goodness of God. Because playlists are great on your own, but they're awesome with other people. when they experience the same joy or the same sorrow or the same emotion that is created in that playlist. And part of worship is those around us need our worship. I don't know if you've thought about that. And I don't think this is a selfish thing or anything like that, but sometimes just showing up and being here and singing next to someone who may be going through turmoil and can't sing, cannot utter the words, just can't vocalize it, needs to hear you sing so that they know it's going to be okay. So that they know that the God who has been faithful is going to continue to be faithful. That those promises that he has given, they will be fulfilled. That is the importance of coming on Sunday morning. Because again, I've heard it, you've said it, I've said it. It's like, I don't know that I need church. You know what I mean? Like, I can go worship when I'm fishing on a boat. Like God and I will talk. And that's great. Because a playlist on your own, that's a good experience. But a playlist and worshiping together is awesome. And we need it from you. We need you to be sitting there next to us so that we can worship together as a community. I think it's why the writer in Hebrews, he actually writes this about gathering as a church. Is it going into not giving up meeting together? Like, we should not forsake the gathering, as some are in habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. See, one day all this is going to end. This isn't the end, but this part of the journey will end. But until that day, we gather together. Why? Because we need each other's worship. We need each other to be singing of God, hearing of God, and remembering of God. It's key. It's critical in our journey and in your journey of being together as the church. But not only is it for God, is it for others, but a reason we worship is we need to worship. We are designed to do this. It is important for our souls to go out and worship. And why? Because it's a part of remembering. When we sing the words that we did, just like we did earlier, it reminds us of who God is. It helps us not forget. Any of you all play those memory games? Like now or even growing up? You have the cards and you flip them over and you try to do them. Like, I loved doing that with my kids. Now they're like just amazing at it, so it's not as fun because I like to beat them is why I enjoyed at the beginning stage of doing that. But like, I have a pretty good memory. Like, I remember dates. My family hates it most of the time because they'll be like, oh, you remember last year? And I'm like, that wasn't last year. It was a year and a half ago. And it was on a Tuesday and it was at 3:00. But like, we'll go through that and they're like, okay. Like, I remember those types of things. Now, I'm not great at names. So I do apologize if I, like, with all confidence, called you something wrong, okay? I am sorry. Because one thing I am is confident, okay? One thing I'm bad is with names. So you may get some kind of name sometime. It may be wrong. Just help correct. I've tried the things. They're like when you meet someone, say their name 3 times in the conversation so it's repetitive so you remember. I don't believe it. It just didn't get any better. I try, and I try. But there's something about a conversation when someone remembers your name, right? When someone that's like, I get it. If it's your neighbor or if it's your dad or if it's something like that, they should know your name, right? But like when someone that you've just kind of met, maybe it was a week ago, maybe it was a month ago, and just in this passing experience, but they say your name, there's a great moment, an experience in remembering. And that's what worship does for us. It's why we come together and do this. Do we have to sing? No, we get to sing. Because when we worship, it helps us remember God and what he's done. It's important. Because it's what the first church did. They came together, right? On the first day of the week. And they would get ingrained into the teaching, into prayer, in communion, into singing, all of these things in worshiping. Why? Because they wanted to remember what Jesus had done and what he is doing and what we get called to do. We worship because we need the worship. They actually say, I tried to get who actually said this quote, but it seems like so many people have stolen it throughout all of history that I don't actually have that. But forgetfulness is the greatest enemy to our faith. Because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to say at one moment, God, I love you and I am with you and I'm doing this, but life happens. Kids, jobs, vacations, everything gets in the way. And we kind of begin to forget. That's why it's important to gather weekly to worship, so that we don't forget. John actually wrote this to one of the churches in Revelation, and he says, yet I hold this against you. This is the words of Jesus written through John to a church. You have forsaken the love you had at first. And one, it's like you have forgotten the love you had at first. Like, we need to remember our first love. And that's God. And how do we do that? By coming together, experiencing his word, being with one another, and worshiping. Now, I have to admit, I have not always been great at this. Like, I grew up, I know many of you know, because I've said I was a pastor's kid, so I have been in church my entire life. And like all the time, doors open, I'm there. And then I went into it as a job. Like, I'm going to be a pastor, and it's like every time the doors are open. And then again, we all went through our 2020, and then I stepped out of full-time ministry. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go back. Like, I don't know. Sunday's free now, right? Like, I don't have to go. And we would go, and we were hit and miss, and sometimes felt like attending and worshiping, and sometimes didn't. But I got a rude awakening from my daughter. She has a way of calling me back into things because she just observes things. And it was one Sunday morning, and it was like, oh, are we going to go? And I'm like, I don't know. If you want to go, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. And she goes, I need you to stop making it contingent on me. Wow. I had forgotten my first love. And I needed a reminder to say, Sunday morning is not something we have to do, it's something we get to do. Worship isn't something we have to do, it's something we get to do. And we get to do it because we need it, everyone needs it, and God deserves it. And that's just my challenge, honestly, out of this. Out of Psalm 96, what would I hope for you? What would I hope for me? Is that we don't put a pause on the playlist. That we continue to remember. That we come together. That we don't put other things in front of worshiping as a community. Why? Because, man, it's important. And it will help us in all of the things that would come in life. When we don't forget our first love, we get to always remember that he is with us. Always. No matter what. And it keeps that in front of us. It helps us see our need for God, his love for us, and the challenge and ability to bring that to other people. So what do I hope? I hope that we continue to worship. We're actually going to pray in just a moment and then have an opportunity to respond in worship. And just singing some words that will remind us of the goodness of God. And that he is the one that reigns. He is the one who is delivered. He is the one who is over everything, and we can praise him for that. Maybe you need some prayer. I'll be up here. Others are up here. Come down and take it as a moment that we could pray over you. But out of this playlist, let us sing loud to the God who created, sustains, and loves us. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for who you are and what you do. That you are in control. And that we need you and we need each other. Help us use this time as an opportunity to praise you. And maybe even try to remember moments where you've brought us through. That you've seen us through an obstacle or a dark time. Or maybe right now, life is just great, and let it be an opportunity to just praise you for how awesome you truly are. Either way, we just bring this before you. We say thank you and we love you. In your name.